All right, it's 6:30. As required by open meeting law, you are hereby informed that the town of Harwich will video and audio taping this meeting. In addition, anyone who plans to video or audio tape this meeting must notify the chairperson prior to the start of the meeting. Does anybody wish to tape? Okay. With that, I'm going to call to order the Board of Health meeting for December 10th, 2019. I think what the date was. All right. The first thing on the agenda is going to be the meeting minutes, and we don't have enough to vote.
We know you can. You can vote unless there's a split vote.
Oh, all right. Any change to the minutes?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay. Motion?
So moved.
And
You can second.
I wasn't here,
Yeah.
Do we
I
have a
guess.
quorum, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, this is the quorum.
Oh, that's right, you get to vote.
I get to vote.
Most chairs don't get to vote. Okay.
Okay.
You might want to announce that before the new hearings.
What's
too.
that?
That we are down 2 members right
Oh.
now, and
Oh, all right. We are missing 2 members. One of them is out sick, so you're left with me to run this.
Okay.
This is my first one, so we'll see what we can do. All right. So then the meetings, we voted on that, so that's finished. All right. Where is my... Next thing on the agenda is the Board of Health work session for the, working on the bylaws or education for the, what are we going to call that? Nutrient and pesticide. So I haven't had a chance to work on anything, have you?
Well, I did a little bit more research on algal blooms, and it turns out that as I suspected, it is phosphorus that is the major culprit rather than nitrogen.
In fresh water, yes.
In fresh water.
Yes.
And because of that, 82%, I think it is, of our bodies of fresh water are unsatisfactory in terms of oxygen. I guess benthic is the official term. Benthic oxygen
Okay.
levels are poor in all of these, and that's what encourages the algae to come. So the only thing I would suggest, in addition to nitrogen, is that we keep in mind that phosphorus is not essential to grass growth. It makes it a little greener, but you can get away without it. And there's a possibility that if we ban phosphorus in our local fertilizers, it might help to reduce the algal blooms.
The only thing I find, and I would agree with that, the only thing I find difficult is banning something like that. How do you, we come back to how do you enforce it?
Yeah, well, of course, if you're standing alone in a large group of people, communities, and then none of the others do it, you just go next door.
Yeah.
But, well, we thought about that with the vaping too, because a lot of people said, well, you know, what's the use? They'll get it online, or they'll get it next door, or whatever. But it turns out that we were sort of pioneers.
Yes, but I think with this, what we talked about the last time was going more with regulations.
Yeah.
Education than actual regulations.
No, I understand that.
And I
but-
think we can certainly put that in there and emphasize it. Again, it comes down to education, that
Yeah.
people will understand that.
In fact, the treatment for algal blooms is to add aluminum sulfate.
Well, I think they've done that, they've done that with Hinckley's
Hinkley's in Long Pond.
and Long Pond. But you have to,
I have to be careful, because Larry is a chemist.
yes.
And he knows all about this stuff.
Well, Megan, if I may on this, I think that the phosphorus per se has already been banned in most things that people use. It's no longer in detergents, for instance. I don't think it's in fertilizers.
I think it is.
Last time I've looked for fertilizers, there's been no phosphorus there.
Oh, okay. That helps.
Really?
If you
Okay.
look at the fertilizer components, it's NP and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You can look yourself. I'm more comfortable, and I would suggest that you look at the regulations in terms of fertilizer application, following, Meg, as you and I talked, the state regs and the other towns have done, so you basically try to educate people and regulate in some way so they don't apply fertilizer until whatever the date is, maybe help me out, May 15th or something. And then, in other words, you're banned from applying fertilizer in the winter where there's little breakdown.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
what the other towns have done. And then they also regulate, and they try to convince people to apply only like a pound per 1,000 square feet or something.
I think there were some regulations for that,
So
but
there's total they regulate the total fertilizer application in lawns, I think
I think what we had discussed the last time was the fact that to make these things regulations, you know, and try to keep people, if you're going to say you can't do this, and it's a regulation, then how are you going to enforce it? And if you can't enforce it, then, to me, I go back to the education. You're going to have people, at least with the education, to me, I think you're going to get the majority. You're never going to get them all. You're not going to get them all with regulations either.
You know, Sharon, Megan, am I okay talking on this?
She's the chair.
Go right ahead.
My position's been that it should be education, not regulations, and that's what, in the past, the Board of Health and Paul was chair, we came up, and there was reluctance to go to regulation because of the enforcement discussion, how we're going to enforce it. I've changed my opinion a little bit on that, based on what other towns have done. Other towns have gone ahead and put the regulation in, and I gather they think that that's a better hammer to encourage education, if I said that. People pay more attention if it's a regulation. They pay attention to it.
There's something.
There's still a discussion about how much effort we can do, and who's going to enforce it. And I would think it's probably like conservation. We don't go out in conservation and march through everyone's property, see what they're doing. A lot of us, people call in and say, well, you know they're building right out in the wetland, and it's enforced. So I probably would separate out the enforcement concern with the regulatory / education. But, you know, sure.
Yeah. We have a lot of discussion yet to do with this.
The problem we have, just, I don't use this term, public relations wise.
As if I ready to tone in on this one.
Yeah. Is that with our CWMP and everything else, we've promised that we would take whatever steps we could think of to,
Again, the
sewer, but also to minimize fertilizer.
And they call it fertilizer education. They don't call it regulations.
Well, I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
I've changed my opinion on that, so just what's going on.
What you put forward there, kind of, I know where you're coming from. If they call it a regulation, it sounds more official. Somebody might more likely to follow it. But if you can't police it, then what?
It's not a perfect world, you know, and none of our regulations, I use conservation as another example, is that we have regulations of, you know, building on wetlands, for instance, which if they know about it, they go after them. But on the other hand, we don't have a staff in town that actually marches around and tries to enforce that.
We do not.
We do not what?
We do not have. Unfortunately, you can have any kind of regulation you want, but there's no enforcement in any department in this town.
Now, as far as the landscapers, you're saying that,
Police, maybe fire.
are landscapers that put down fertilizer? I know in Pennsylvania, if you're just like a landscaper that goes around and plants things, you don't need a license. But if you are going to dispense fertilizer, they are required to have a license. They don't here?
Not that I know of. No, they need a license to apply pesticides,
Just pesticides,
but not
okay.
fertilizer.
All right.
what I've noticed though is that a lot of people think that fertilizer can do things that it can't do. And they assume if they put fertilizer on their beautiful green lawn, that it's going to improve it. And a lot of times, if they have enough sunshine and water, they do improve, but not as much as you'd think from the fertilizer.
And they don't last.
I told you last time that my experience as a homeowner was that the best fertilizer I have ever used on a lawn is pelletized lime. And that's not a problem, because it's calcium, it's not nitrogen or phosphorus. And it works extremely fast, and it works very well, but you have to keep doing it because the acidification of the ground is major anywhere there are pine trees. So I think if we just told people that you're wasting your money on fertilizer, try lime, and it worked for them, I think we do a lot more to reduce the fertilizer distribution than we would by passing a rule.
Remember, the pesticide, we can make that a regulation in this.
You can't regulate pesticide on private property,
Really?
really.
Okay.
Yeah. You can only regulate it on public lands. Which
So a
the state already
landscaper
does.
couldn't, with a permit to apply pesticides, could not put it on your property?
No, they can do that. The Board of Health can't adopt a regulation prohibiting pesticide use on a private land.
Okay, all right.
On private
okay,
property.
All right. All right. All right, so I think we have more work to do on this.
Especially as to the means of education. We talked about it a little bit last time.
Yeah.
But I personally feel, although I'm sure it's easier to do, putting brochures out and hanging up notices here and there is, in my opinion, a very ineffective way of educating people.
I think it helps somewhat, but I think you're almost,
I can't hear him.
I don't know what else you could do. I mean, I'm sure if you offered some sort of a seminar, they're not going to show up either.
They can't hear back here.
Okay, it's not worth listening to.
I think it is. I do think it is. I just can't
I
hear
think
you.
they're gonna have more discussion.
Yeah, yeah. So is anybody in the audience there, do you have any thoughts on pesticides? And
I guess my question would be is, when you're talking about golf courses, for instance, Harwich Board Golf Course or Cranberry Valley Golf Course, or particularly, it doesn't necessarily have much to do with Harwich, but Eastward Ho, they do an amazing amount of nitrogen that goes into those golf courses to make them so green. And that's so dangerous to what's going on in our Nantucket Sound, and that's scary. So when I listen to Megan say that we can't actually regulate private properties and how they're allowed to fertilize, because that's kind of
Pesticides, not fertilizer.
She's saying pesticides.
pesticides as opposed to fertilizing.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Which brings up the question, is
By
Cranberry
the way,
Valley
with the
public?
nitrogen more than anything else, you're right. Okay, sorry.
So what
I
about
apologize.
Cranberry Valley? Is that?
Cranberry Valley is managed by Sean Fernandez. He has a degree in turf management. He worked with me on the proposed regulations that I gave you
I mean, it's
to look
owned
at.
by the town, right?
Cranberry Valley is, Harwich Port is a private golf course.
So Cranberry Valley would be exempt from the issue of private, right?
Cranberry Valley would be
It's public.
within, we would be able to regulate that for
Kind of like we did
fertilizer.
with the water bottles.
Yes.
On town property.
Yes, so we're talking about two different things. Fertilizer, we can make a townwide regulation that'll, public, private, we can do that. Pesticides, there's a special legislation that doesn't allow us to regulate private property with chemical use.
All right. So we could do it with the fertilizer, which I don't think is going to be
If I
effective.
can, I need to say something positive about Cranberry Valley particularly.
They do a great
And
job.
Harwich Board as well. But I'll start with Cranberry Valley, and I'll jump on this young fellow here. Because
Dumb?
they've reduced their fertilizer use in the last several years, I don't know, like 85%. They've gotten the Green Award from the Audubon Society for use of minimal use of fertilizer and pesticides. They do that by better management, letting their roots grow out, aeration, mechanical. Just a tremendous job. In fact, my complaint about them for some time is they didn't show that up on their advertisements. They used to fight with. And Harwichport's the same thing. They've greatly reduced their fertilizer and pesticide use by better aeration, for instance, they get the as Matt says, all our soils are acidic here, so we can lime a lot. I do it because I'm cheap and it's cheap and it works. And so they're really a model on using minimal fertilizer, actually. So
They are.
I'll fight with this young gentleman out in the hall, but that's when I come back.
Thank you.
Well, we can tap into them.
They're a great resource, and they're actually looking to become an organic golf course. So Audubon is looking at them as a sanctuary, so they've done some great things, and I've asked him to attend one of our meetings in the winter so he can talk to you all about the best way to educate and
Okay,
how to manage a lawn, make it green
that would be
without the
good.
chemicals.
That would be good.
Is there a way that these golf courses are like having an incentive drawn to them that makes them want to accomplish like more green and more, environmentally friendly?
Yes,
alternative?
that award that we were granted is a sought-after award, and becoming a Audubon sanctuary is a pretty high honor, so I think it's something that we are striving to do.
The other incentive, of course, is just money.
Yeah.
Always broken.
Is there money that's attached with the Audubon award?
No, but the lower the less the amount of fertilizer they're buying, that is less expense.
All right,
And,
all right.
especially the last couple of years, we were allowed about money in
We can't start the regular meeting till 7.
I can go through my report if you'd
All
like.
right. All right, we'll have the Board of Health monthly?
Health Director Monthly Report.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give some recognition to Sharon and Ron, who couldn't be here today, for attending the Foundation's course in Public Health. That's a 15-week program that is
It's in
intense.
Taunton, too, right?
No, it's online.
Oh.
There's 3 webinars that you have to attend and 2 in-person classes that are in Dedham. Is that where it was?
Something like that.
One class has come up, and the next is in February or April.
I think it's February.
It's an intense learning class, but soon enough, it will be a requirement to be on the Board of Health.
Oh, really?
The Special Commission on Local Public Health has given out some guidance for Board of Health members, for staff, right down from director to clerical, and what the minimum qualifications should be, and the Foundation's course is one of those. So it just kind of gives you a background of all the things we do.
That's interesting, because
it's a very good.
I would have joined that group if I'd known I could take it at home, because as you know, I'm homebound by my duties.
Yeah.
And so, are there any courses like that can be taken online?
Yep, I'll send you the link again to this
Please.
local public health institute. The Foundation course is an actual course that you have to sign up for in the beginning and
Yeah.
attend all the sessions. They'll probably offer it again next year. But there are many courses throughout that are self-paced that give anything from Title V,
Yeah, I was doing
food
that.
code,
I almost finished too.
housing, all of the things that we deal with. So
Okay.
I'll give you the link, and they're all free. They're all online
Good.
at your own pace webinars. Some of them, if you sign up,
Please
get a
do.
username
Thank
and
you.
password, you can get a certificate. But they're pretty comprehensive.
It really gives a very good overview. I would call it an in-depth overview. I think it's really worthwhile. I really do.
Yeah, it's a great course. I took it when it first came out, probably 15 years ago, and not many of the regulations have changed since then, so it's kind of the same. The budget for the health department has been submitted to the finance director, level funded. The only increases are contractual salaries. We're actually giving some money back because we haven't been using our advertising budget. It's been coming out of administration all along, so why bother having a line item
That would be.
holding money up? So we're giving some money back. Licensing, annual renewal time. Jen's been working hard at getting licenses out electronically and then getting hundreds of them back in the mail to process. We have had a good turnout. I think we're doing pretty well with that. Acela is still a glitch with annual licenses. They did make a change where they do automatically expire, but now some of the fees associated aren't working, so we're still having to do a lot of manual checking on that. But we have Dave Sullivan back from the county commissioners. He took a little time off and now he's back, that we can contact when we come up with problems. And he's been pretty good at getting back to us. He'll be here this week to help the building department with some things, so.
What do the asterisks signify on those?
The permits,
Yeah,
renewals.
oh,
The new permits are in
I
bold,
think it's, yeah.
and then renewals have the asterisks. There's more renewals than new. Yeah.
It was a-
Community development. I wasn't able to make the municipal vulnerability program kickoff, so I sent Katie, my assistant Katie Tenalia, and the MVP program is being run through Charlene Greenhouse, the town planner. It's a assessment of the town's vulnerability and where we stand with emergency situations, flooding, loss of power, prolonged loss of anyone getting over the bridge, that sort of thing. Are we going to be able to eat? So she attended the kickoff meeting, and then the workshop that gets all the stakeholders together is at the end of January. If any of you are interested in going, it's a day-long workshop on a Friday, the 31st. It's all day long, an 8-hour workshop.
Keep me in mind. I should be
Okay.
back by then.
Okay.
Maybe, what's that called again?
Municipal Vulnerability Program.
Okay, someone questioned about it, and I have no idea.
Yeah, I was part of one when I worked in Dennis, and it's kind of like a workshop where everyone brings their thoughts on what's vulnerable in town and what we can do to prevent loss of roadways and flooding, and how is Stop and Shop going to stay up and running to feed this part of the town, and are our shelters on high ground, or are we going to lose those on Lower County Road? Last month I attended a seminar on harmful algal blooms. Those cyanobacterias that closed a few of our ponds this summer. I went with Conservation and Natural Resource Directors, and they presented a couple of testing options and packages that we could purchase to do our own monitoring program. Heinz, the Natural Resource Director, has volunteers throughout the summer that do test the ponds for things, but not for cyanobacteria levels. So we can't regulate it per se, but there's guidance on when to close a pond and when to reopen one, and in order to protect animals and dogs and things from getting close to the water if there's a harmful algal bloom. We've been thinking about a program that the town can develop similar to something that Barnstable has. They have a program where they actually have a lab and a full-time employee, which we can't do, but we can.
could we share it?
Can we send stuff to them?
We could send things to them. That's a possibility.
I would think that should be like a,
Regional thing.
yeah.
It's not a state certified microcystin laboratory.
Be close enough.
Yeah, it gives us kind of an idea of whether this particular harmful bloom is growing or decreasing.
Yeah.
So we're talking about doing a program starting in June, because that's
There's a
when.
proxy for that, since these are anaerobic organisms. Measuring oxygen level in the water is equally
Yeah.
effective and cheaper, I think. I haven't looked into the cost of it.
Yeah, we do that anyway.
You
Well,
it
we do the
anyway,
DO,
then.
yeah.
You could use that as a proxy
Mhm.
for the
It could, it'd be an indicator to,
Yes. It would be an indicator. It'd be interesting anyways. I don't know if it's scientific
Do
enough.
we
but it-
actually do it, or we just have the ability to do it?
We do test the DO in ponds right
Oh,
now
okay.
throughout the summer.
All the way to the bottom?
I don't know. You'll have to ask
Well,
Heinz.
DO at the surface isn't gonna help you. It's where the bugs grow, it's at the bottom.
Down there.
So when Heinz does this, where does all the, does he present any of this anywhere? I mean, so he does this and he gets the information, and then what,
I don't know.
then what?
I'll ask him.
You would think that periodically,
Mm-hmm.
if you do it quarterly, then he shows up maybe at the Board of Selectmen or someplace and
presented
provides
some
that
information.
information.
Yeah, for years, I've been putting the data together in Excel spreadsheets and stuff, and I put it out, for a while, I put it out on a website, but it got so many years, and so, maybe you know what I'm talking about. Now, in the last couple of years, the counties hired someone to try to pull together all the various water data from around the Cape. And so I think the last couple of years, they've been sent directly to the county as well. And so I have a meeting tomorrow on one of the wastewater groups in the county. I'll double check with that.
Okay.
What the status is on their putting that data together.
So it's separate data from the Mass Estuaries project. It's separate.
Yeah.
It's different data.
Different.
Ours is separate.
Yes.
They've been doing that, but we've been pushing for some time to get all the, each town has their own programs as well, it seems.
That's why I was thinking if Heinz would give us the information just from the ponds that we have here in Harwich, because that is also part of our CWMP.
Right. The first step is to agree on which has basically been done on how to present the data, but they've been inputting it, so I think they should have that ready.
That would be interesting.
I would. And then the last two things was the sewer regulations. I met with Larry and a few of the other town departments and the wastewater consultant, Charlie Sumner, about the land use control law, which is an article within the sewer regulations that allows for transfer of gallons from one sewer district to another. It's kind of complicated to think of unless you're familiar with the map, but it's a land use control law that really needs some hard policies because it's available for the public to look at but not to access. So the selectmen or the sewer commissioners need to provide a little bit of guidance on the land use control law. And lastly, on wellness activities, November, Cape Cod Municipal Health Group kicked off the Maintain Don't Gain Challenge. It's a 6-week program that promotes healthy eating and not gaining extra weight during holidays. They also had a fruit and veggie challenge in November that you would get on their website or their login every day and show that you're eating fruits and veggies every day. It's a nice wellness program that is offered to town employees.
That was nice.
Studies have recently come out, high-end studies, that a 14-hour fast in a day is an effective and easy way to maintain wellness, weight control. You eat everything, all your food from 8 to 6, and then nothing after that. And it works.
Good luck. Yeah.
What do you do while you're watching TV?
Where does the wine come in?
Yeah.
Put out sugarless candy.
Yes,
Right, it's 7 o'clock.
All right, let's move on to the old business, and we don't have any old business. So we'll move on to the new business, and that's a showcase hearing. Thomas, and I'm not going to pronounce that right, Demotica. So is, no.
He
he's not-
emailed me
That's
today.
right. Go ahead.
So this is a show cause hearing for 321 Lower County Road. He was before us in May. I'm sorry, not May. Yes, in May. He has a failed septic system, and he requested an extension for upgrade from the typical 45 days to have it upgraded no later than November 13th. So he was granted a 6-month extension. The system was working properly, it wasn't overflowing, it wasn't backing up into the house. The house was going to be used seasonally, rarely on the weekends, not being rented, minimal use. So the board approved the extension request with some deadlines to have test holes done, a perk test, a plan and permit application in for review by certain dates, which he met, and he submitted a plan, was approved. We were waiting for install, hadn't happened yet. So right now, the house, according to his email, is vacant, and he has, could be, I don't know, I don't remember what it looks like.
Okay.
But he sent an email this morning that said, I've started the process. My intention was to be completely done by now, but was unable to finish. It will be done very soon. The house is not occupied, nor has it been occupied since the last meeting. I will not be able to attend this meeting tonight.
So-
Period. So,
Well, I think you said it was time to start kicking in the regulations, right?
Yes, yes.
The first one's no fine.
It's a written warning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that, isn't that what you've already done?
no, he's had an order to correct. He hasn't been,
Not a warning.
he hasn't been in violation of his order.
Well, should he be?
He is.
I mean,
He is.
I mean officially. I move that we send a warning to him at this time.
Would you like a deadline for install?
Mhm.
Yes.
Would you want to go past the holidays?
If it's vacant, I don't see why not.
Go to what, the middle of January?
Seems reasonable. He is the installer. He owns the install company. So it's not a
Naturally, he
scheduling
wouldn't do
thing.
his own property. Good Lord.
It's like watchmakers.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. So
we didn't vote yet.
one other thing to vote on, he is his own installer,
Yeah.
and he applied for an installer license, 6-month license, because he said he'd get it in within 6 months. So his license has expired. You have the option to extend it out if you
I
prefer.
wouldn't extend it out if he's going to be this difficult with us, not respond.
So you'd like him to reapply?
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be my opinion.
Yeah, I think.
The only thing that's going to do, though, is it's going to prolong when he gets the work done.
Well, if nobody's using the house, it doesn't matter.
That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We can have him reapply, but like you guys were saying, it's gonna extend the time which is a complete installation. And
Mhm.
then we'd have to make another deadline possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would think, rather than have him reapply, give him that extension date to get it finished by the mid-January. Can we tell him that if it's not done by then, that at that point, can we extend the license to the same date, to the finish time? So that the license would be extended till that time, and he has till that time to get it finished, and
Yeah.
then,
Mm-hmm.
At which point he'd be in his new season, he'll want a license.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I think we should send him a warning now,
Yes.
because the next move would then be a fine.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I'd so move.
You all agree- Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send the license to the same day that we're gonna allow.
All right.
You have to
Be
say
installed at.
you second, though.
You have to second, I need somebody to second it. Yours.
Second.
Okay, and we, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, we're good on that one.
Middle of January.
Middle of January. We can pick you can pick a
Oops.
date like at an end of the week, on a Friday
Okay.
or something.
Okay.
All right, the next one is a petition request for Cape Cod Regional Technical High School. They're looking for a variance request from the state plumbing code, which requires documentation of a petition of the local Board of Health. And what they want to do It's complicated.
And let the engineer say, what do you?
Oh, you're there?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, great.
My name is Christopher Garcia. I'm with Garcia, Gillespie, D'Souza, with the consulting engineers, plumbing engineers for the project. So we're asking, with the Plumbing State Board, asking for a variance in regards to a board policy for tempered water loops that feed emergency fixtures. I have a draft copy of that. I don't know
Yes.
if
You gave that to
want me
us.
to
Yes.
show that.
Yeah.
That's us.
So essentially, anyway, I provided these plans as well. This is just an overview of the school building and the amount of emergency fixtures that are throughout the building. There's emergency showers in each of the vocational shops and in the science classrooms, as well as in some of the culinary areas for the students. So the board policy requires that a continuous dedicated water loop in between temperatures of 60 to 100 degrees is plumbed through the building and would be recirculated continuously back to the source of the water heater. So our variance request is simply just because of the magnitude of the floor plan. It's in a considerable amount of water piping, over 2,000 linear feet of water piping. And also having, with water temperatures at that lukewarm, the concern of bacteria and whatnot is to have that loop continuously running. So with a school operation of only 180 days or so, there's a lot of downtime, and that loop would still need to be continuously circulated, even though during those down times. So we're asking for a variance from the board to allow us to essentially put emergency mixing valves at each and every shower, each and every fixture, and those would be supplied by the domestic water, cold water system and the hot water system that's in the building, which is above 120 degrees, again, because of the concern for bacteria. So I don't know if we provided this, but at each and every shower, there'd be a mixing valve, and off of the main lines that are through the building, we would have the hot and cold water feed that mixing valve and then directly feed the emergency shower. Part of the board policy is that you don't have an extended developed length of 15 feet. So we think that this is still meeting the intent of that, of the policy. So that's what we're going to be requesting from the board.
Now, I see here that you mentioned 125 degrees because you're particularly looking at Legionella.
Correct.
And it would
That's-
be 125.
Yes, the
Okay.
hot water it's actually stored at the hot water heater at above 140 degrees.
This-
And then there's mixing valves
All right.
there to temper that so that nobody gets scalded, but we do not want the water to drop below 120 degrees in terms of that hot water loop that runs through the building.
Now, just a question for clarification. Then, at these different sites, does somebody periodically go around and turn them on and flush them?
Yeah, that's part of the policy too, is that the school commit to running, because the main thing about the policy is stagnant water. We want to avoid having stagnant water, so part of that is, and also the ANSI standards, you're supposed to test these every week or run them every week. So
Is
that
it documented?
can be a concern that if they're not maintained, that we have, again, if we had that low temperature, that would be a concern.
So the school is the one that goes around and flushes those?
Yeah, they're supposed to run those every week. And then they do get fully tested, but we're supposed to operate them at least once a week to do that.
So, do we have any,
We can put it into a recommendation.
I think we should. I really do, because it's one of those, if it isn't written, it isn't done. And if you don't have to write it, they don't do it.
Yeah, well, there is a written, we would have to put that in writing that they.
Well, like each station on a list,
Yeah.
who did it and when.
Mhm.
So I really, I do think that's important. Because in the institution that I worked in, which was a hospital, we did have issues with this.
Mhm.
So if people aren't doing it, you run into trouble.
Right, agreed.
So, all right. All right, so we can make that. All right. I don't have a problem with it.
You know, my only concern would be that the non-shower emergency equipment like eye wash and so on would be part of the system and would be guaranteed to work when students were there.
Yeah, the eye washes are part of this system as well. Those have they would have their own dedicated emergency mixing valve at those as well.
Practically speaking, eye wash is actually more important than showers because people do get stuff in their eyes. And that's right. It isn't instructed here, but that would still be fully operational, right?
Correct.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved at the recommendation of the health captain. I can't remember your name.
So you're not actually approving this variance, you're providing a letter
Let-
to the State Plumbing Board
Yes.
saying that it's been petitioned and that you don't have any issues. So
Okay.
I can draft a
Okay,
letter
thank you.
to that effect.
Okay. So you
I
did
so
that.
move that.
Okay,
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
you're welcome.
It
Probably
hasn't
see
been
that
voted on yet?
Oh.
middle of next week.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all those,
Aye.
aye?
Aye.
Now it's okay.
Thank
Now
you.
it's over. We'll get there. All right. And that took care of that one and this one. Wait. All right, the next one is food service permit application discussion, the Seal Pub and Cafe.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
My name is Bob Young. I'm going to be one of the owners of the Seal Pub and Cafe. This is Mike Scott.
I am Mike Scott.
Okay.
I brought hot props.
And so this is a draft vision of what we would like to do over 703 Main Street, which is one of the most prominent and important in Harwich.
Yeah, but nobody ever stops to eat there.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Nobody stops to eat at that intersection.
I like that in minutes. So our vision of this, and Megan should have our application with details of what we want to do in our biographies. I've owned a coffee house before for 10 years in California, in the Russian River wine country area. Roasted my own coffee, and what we believe with that location to work in Harwich Center as part of this revitalization that's been much discussed over years. Our business model would be opening earlier, like 6 a.m., and doing a cafe portion where the kitchen currently is. We understand the septic issues that we've had intense discussions with Megan. When we first found this restaurant, we were told basically to look elsewhere. But this location is got the great potential for revitalization for Harwich. I believe that it could be a small anchor business. Now, our cafe portion, we actually plan to remove seats because it would be more of a to-go early morning opening. You'd come in and be an espresso machine, some light fare there. The bar pub portion, as I call it, would open at noon. So currently he has 38 seats, and you restrict him to plastic. We are asking for the
Paper,
plastic
please, not plastic.
restriction. Yeah, we're asking for the plastics restriction to be lifted. And the reason, and Mike, if you would show them, and I would like to show you this, sir, because when you sit down there, this is what each person gets, is 2 plastic cups, one for water, one for your drink. Now, if you have a cocktail, you get that. If you want a shot, you get that. And then if you eat something, you get a paper plate with napkins, and if you're lucky enough that these plastic utensils will cut your meat, then you
Sometimes,
might
yes.
get served. So you can get all of this, which goes into the landfills. They spend $35,000 plus a year complying with the restriction to serve this, rather than being allowed. What my plan, what I would like to do is offer a wine glass, craft beers. I'm from the wine country. I wanted to offer premium wines. I wanted to be able to offer craft beers and serving plates in the pub section, because that's mostly where people are gonna sit down, they're not gonna take stuff to go. They can still take stuff to go. But we're proposing to decrease our seating from the current 38 that he has to probably under 30 at some point. We're still looking at the facility. Now, I just want to reiterate that this business was upgraded in 2015, so it's in good shape. Looking at the septic system, which is non-conforming, and Megan has talked about flow, and I've consulted with an engineer, Dan Couteau, and we did meet with the church to talk about expanding the septic system, or we talked to them. Now, I don't know whether, at first it went well, they were going to propose that I don't have the standing to ask for a variance. I'm just a tenant. But the landlord allowed me to have a discussion. But then I think when you talked to the church, they got nervous because they thought you were going to force them to upgrade their septic. And the reality is, this location, within 500 feet after 5 o'clock, there is no toilets flushing. There's no business other than that one. Everything is dark, all the way down to here. So the water department, when I went and talked to them about flow today, they show us under 500 gallons a day at the Harwich Water Department. So that's less than what the septic system can handle. The septic system appears to be working. It appears to be able to handle us being able to serve in glass and some silverware and plates.
You're
And that
talking
would-
about under the current owner, right?
I'm
The
sorry, I'm
flow,
buying.
water flow.
Yes,
Current.
water, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, we think that we would be less because we anticipate more to-go items coming from the cafe side. We've also discussed the possibility of working with the landlord to either do low-flow toilets, to just general conservation, and to monitor it based on the flow that we found from the water department over an 18-month period to make sure that we were staying within the parameters and working with the Board of Health or working with an engineer to monitor this situation. At the same time, being able to upgrade to a service, a better upscale, just quality food service establishment.
Can I just ask a question? What you talked about the glasses, when you said with wine, were you going to put them in glass?
Yes, last
So then you're going to have washing, you're going to have
Yes.
dishwashing, so
Yes.
that's going to increase.
Not according to what we're understanding.
No, that
That fits within the current flow. They're already washing pots and pans in there.
they have a 3-bay sink on the property, which you
They have two
have
of
to
them.
have. They have one 3-bay behind the bar, and they also have one 3-bay in the kitchen. Now, even if we do add a dishwasher, there are low-flow dishwashers out there that are just as effective, and they even use less chemicals these days. So, yeah, you're not using as much water. You're recycling water in a lot of those dishwashers.
So we're proposing a flex seating plan, such as in the mornings, there's not going to be much seating because it's to go. We're eliminating a lot of the seating on the deck. The deck is going to become no smoking, no vaping. It's going to have bench seating, and we're going to go for the bike path users, and they'll be able to come in their shoes or cleats, equipment, helmets, whatever have you, and be able to utilize our deck earlier. Right now, they just go past it because it's just a bar and it's not open. We propose to be open, to do smoothies, to do espressos, things like that, light fare, that to go like frittatas and a muffin.
A little healthier atmosphere.
Yeah, and so that's what we want to do. We feel that this is going to be an asset to Harwich Center. We ask for your support to work with us in observing and monitoring these changes on this existing septic system, which is non-conforming, but it's also on a historic building that has no back lot. Somewhere that went away. And we are in discussions with the landlord and he would come before you too and tell you what his opinion is, because as the building owner, I don't have the standing to change any of that. But Adam wants to sell, so one way or another, you will get somebody trying to buy it. And we'd like it to be us, and we would like it not to close. And I think if you're going to take a step for revitalization of Harwich Center, this is the first one. So if you have any other questions of me or about my background,
All right,
or
let me,
hours.
so you said you were going to decrease seating.
Yes. First of all, he has like 2 booths in this kitchen area that we want to expand a counter out to handle the espresso machine and a deli case so that you can buy whatever we have, what Mike bakes. So we see people coming in at 6 a.m. and hopefully you.
I don't
Because
get
they
up
work
at 6
here. Well, we know a lot of people that do, that will come in
I do.
at 6 a.m. and want, an espresso, and then they might get something and leave. So we're not proposing like Ruggies does to serve sit-down breakfast and create seating that way. So those booths will go because we want some more counter space.
Okay,
And then the pub will open at noon, and that seating is pretty much going to remain the same, actually, because we're not really serving a sit-down. We want to serve at the bar, at the pub, but it won't have a lot of tables to serve.
Question, how are you figuring seating if you're having benches?
Well, that's, subjective. You guys figure it one way. I don't figure per inch seating, because knowing bike riders, and I'm a bike rider myself, and I've dealt with some of them, is if they come in with a helmet or there's 3 or 4 of them going together, they're going to sit down gear next to them.
But
And that would be outside.
You've got to set a seating plan that complies.
Well,
with
right now,
regulations.
we're taking away those tables. Some of them are 4 tops, and we're not doing that. We're putting in, we want to do a bench seat. Megan has the.
You all have this in your
Yeah.
packet.
So if you look at that, you'll see a change from the before to what we're proposing.
I couldn't make much sense out of that because I don't know enough about bench seating to know.
no.
It's more flexible, and that's why,
But
but
if
the whole
it's
key
more
is flex.
flexible, then it can be flexible in the positive sense too. That is, you can put more people in a row than you would ordinarily have with chairs.
Except that we're proposing that the service area for that seating is the cafe, which is to go.
Oh.
Now, currently, what those tables and chairs offer is smokers.
Yeah.
They have ashtrays on them. And that's where
That's
a lot of the
all I
employees
have
go
on.
out there and people come out there and smoke. We want to end that. That's not what we want to happen. And we also want it to be earlier, so you're getting the exercise crowd, the people using the bike trail, things like that to come by. One of the biggest issues that we have heard, or complaints, if you will, is that it's very, the laws, the way it's handled here in town is just very tight. And some of the guys that work for TripAdvisor says there's no place to stop between like Dennis and Orleans, where you can sit down at a cafe or sit outside with their gear, get a cappuccino to make it to the next stop. And we want to be open and available. They look at it now and they see a closed bar. We don't want to be known as just a closed bar. We want to have this cafe, to-go style, that they can come in, get something, and be on their way again in the season.
Will the cafe be open the same time the pub is open?
Yes.
How much overlap will there be?
Well, we envision a menu change. What'll happen is the menu will change around noon or so, because espresso decreases in popularity, and then we'll have some soft drinks, juices, and things like that. But again, we don't have the space to really maintain a sit-down meal place. It's going to be mostly still to go. Now, after, say, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, that's where we would want some seating in the pub.
I think the critical thing, though, is that if a person is coming in to pick up a package as opposed to sitting down and eating, he's not likely to use the restroom.
Mhm.
Whereas if a person is sitting and eating, he will or she will probably be using a restroom, which is where your water use is going to come from. So it's important for me, at least, to know exactly what the kind of seating you're going to have will be, how many people will be seating in where, and at what time. roughly?
Well, I can't tell you the time. I can tell you that we figure the heaviest use for to-go items will be 6 a.m. probably to 2 in the afternoon.
But 6 to 12, as you say, just coffee, right?
Yeah, we don't want to open the pub before 12.
Yeah, so people will be
In
coming
fact-
in and taking coffee out, right?
Right. Or
There'll be no
juices.
use of the restroom to speak of.
I mean, they
I-
could.
I-
They have to, you have
I
to.
would think
You can't say no to
bikers.
that.
Offer.
Bikes would definitely.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
all right, but how
I'm thinking that, you know,
That's a
even the
legal
walk-ins.
requirement that we have the two
well,
handicap
you have to
restaurants.
have it. But
Yes.
the question is,
And I can't tell them not to go to the
liquid
bathroom.
flow is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, if you look at historically from the water department, the flow currently is, you
Well,
know.
yeah, but this is a different outfit altogether. You're talking about Reds, right? Reds is
Right.
the one with the flow, okay?
But you can only go by what the historic record says.
Well, I know this place. I think it's not going to be quite the same when you guys try this.
In what way?
I think you'll do better.
We'll do better?
Yeah.
I'm glad I have that in a minute.
I'll tell you what, I think the idea sounds very good. I like the idea. Having been on wastewater, okay, I'm really into making sure that we don't go over what we're supposed to. My feeling is if we have rules and regulations, I think we need to follow them. I think too often we let them slide, and if you let everybody slide a little bit, it ends up a lot. So I'm just having a little difficulty trying to picture what the difference is, because I've never been in Reds.
Well, I'd be happy to give you a tour, and I
So
have a wastewater background too.
So I guess I'm having a hard time picturing what you're saying, what's going to be open in the morning, what's going to be open later in the day, and then why do you think you can meet the requirements for the flow?
Because he is now, and we're not going to be changing, in fact, we're reducing the seating. A lot of the food still is going to be to call in to go. We get a lot of to go from what we have gone over his receipts, and Mike has already worked in there a little bit, is they get a lot of phone calls to go. So they will still come in till 10 o'clock at night and pick up to-go items.
All right.
We will serve a limited menu. I believe that you've seen our menu,
It was
which
in
is
here.
cut
Yeah.
drastically because we want to go up in the quality and
See that.
different portions, fresher stuff. And yes, they can sit at the bar or the pub during certain hours and eat that, but it's still going to be a heavily to-go menu and a heavily, if I could get everybody to come in a pub and sit around and drink, drinking is just not what it used to be. So
No.
I want to offer crafts beers and I want to offer good wines and hope that that draws in a quality crowd that wants to.
Are you
Enjoy that.
still going to pursue possibly getting some sort of a variance from the church? They were talking about, I guess, extend
The
easement.
church,
an easement.
we have a couple of issues. I'm dealing with the landlord on that. He's out of the country right now. And when he gets back, he's very well aware of all this that I'm preparing for you. He's got copies of it and everything. And he has to deal with the septic himself. And it's up to the church over time. I hope that they, I think, want to see us succeed. But they also, once that happens, then I think they're going to be more open to a permanent solution. We talked about vacating the apartments upstairs and removing the kitchens and stuff. And that is not a good idea because you're getting rid of housing. You know, you're in a compromised housing area out here. So, you know, you should leave the apartments. And what we should do is monitor this and try to be smart about it, work within the boundaries that we have. You guys are professionals. She's going to be coming in and checking that. And we're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. However, we're trying to do a new business there, a new business venture that I think will be really a good addition to the Harwich Center.
So, how do you monitor the flow when you're not on a sewer system, if it's a septic?
Well, we do it by water usage. That's the only way I know how
Oh,
to do
just by
it.
the water usage?
Yeah, and that's what Harwich Water said, that we're under 500 gallons a day, which is, you know, that's just what their figures are, not mine.
All right,
And
so
then I
what
went to-
happens if after a month or 2 months, you find that water usage goes up?
Well, that's why we have been consulting with an engineer who will be working and doing our dishwasher size and advising us every step of the way. And that's what he suggests is that if you do this and you allow us to do this, an 18-month period to see how this is working and if it's working and things like that. And that's also going to go on our leash. Our landlord is responsible for the septic, not me. I will pump it twice instead of just once. I'll pump it twice. We will talk, our engineer suggested a filter on the septic. I'm not sure I understand the benefits of that, but he says it's something that we should consider. So we've consulted them as tenants to try to do what's right here. And that's what we're trying to do. I would like to come to you and say, I am so busy, I have to buy this lot next door and get him to install a septic. I have a 2-year plan to see if that works. And that's why I've already made outreach to the church. That's why I've already made outreach to an engineer. I've talked to the Board of Selectmen about this. And they want to see Harwich Center come back. It's important. And so we have to take a step somewhere.
I'm getting a mixed message, though, from this presentation. First part of the message is Harwich Center is dead. It never lights up at night. We're in a very advantageous position, except for parking, I should add, in order to increase the use of the town after dark. That's part one. Part two, you're saying, oh, yeah, but everything's going to be takeout, or almost everything's going to be. Those two don't match to me.
Well, have you been in Reds?
Oh, more than once.
Okay, well, currently, my feeling is that their business plan or business model is all sports and football. And, you know, it can't survive like that. And so what we're trying to propose is, again, we'll probably get a rush at 7, 8 o'clock. And then we hope to do darts, continue that sort of thing. But we'll try to hold on to the locals. Will it exceed and get packed? They can still get packed in there by standing. They just can't sit. That's not going to change.
But they're all going to
And if it got packed on a big weekend, we would probably go to plastic.
If they're eating there, they're going to be using dishes. That's for sure.
Only at the
Whether they're
pub.
sitting or standing or lying, they're still going to be using dishes.
Not in the cafe area.
That's the takeout part?
Yes.
Yeah, but then you're contradicting yourself when you say it's
No,
going to be
no, I have to.
It's going to be a beacon to the town to go in after dark. They're not going to come out for takeout at all that at night. There's going to be people want to look for a place to sit and eat.
Well, yes. And that's kind of the dichotomy that you guys have, more so than me, is you allow the port to develop, but not Harwich Center. And so that's your choice, is you're going to have to figure out a way to allow some sort of rejuvenation, or not. That's just simply your decision. I'm not trying to do anything to you and pull a wool over your eyes in any way. I'm just saying I think that we can fit within this business model the use of glass, silverware, and better food, so that you can cut the actual meats and not put plastic in there. And you certainly must be aware of the news reports of the overflowing landfills and the plastic that's hitting the environment. So you have a septic issue I know you have to deal with, but you're ignoring the plastic issue, which is right in front of you.
Yeah, because that's not our job. Our job is the septic issue.
That's not a good response, sir.
The plastic is an
that
issue.
That is your job, because you're the Board of Health, and when it ends up in the environment and it ends up in animals, and I have rescue dogs.
We have no
and
authority
birds.
over plastic.
You're talking about fertilizer. That you'll find particles of that.
We're talking about how much water you guys are going to use when you move. That's the issue.
And I believe through our engineer and talking to the water department and getting our facts that I can, that we can operate it within those parameters.
All right, so some of what I'm hearing from you is things that can be done or that you're working on.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to need your help on this. So can we ask for a comprehensive plan of we're going to do this and this and this, and so that we know exactly what your plans are to get to that goal?
Well, ma'am, you have to define what that goal is.
To open up.
Well, my opening up, we're hoping to take over for Martin Luther King weekend. And so to do that, you know, it's going to take us 3 months to really get in there and get ready for season. Those changes are not going to really happen until we have the okay that you're going to allow us to even pursue this. I can't get any more specific than I
Right,
really
so
am.
you're going to lease it as it is now.
Yes, and make these improvements as we go along. But I'm not really changing the seating, I'm not going down on the seating. And if you haven't been in the restaurant, you have to
Yeah,
come in and take a tour, especially if you're going to vote on something this important to
Yeah.
me. I've invested money in here, I'm investing time in this town. I have been elected to a water board, I've done sewer and septics, and I understand the position you're in. But I also see how this town is, and I think that some change has to happen. So I would invite you to come take a look at it. I'd give you a tour of the kitchen, I'd give you a tour of the seating, and show you exactly what we're going to do.
Are you now operating this?
No, I'm
Well,
not.
how can we get a tour from you if you're not the owner?
Because Adam will cooperate with me, and if you set an appointment, I'd be happy to do it. I toured somebody around at 2:30 today.
Yeah, I'm puzzled about this too, because we went in that place when it used to be Ay Caramba, and it was a full restaurant. And I'm sure that's changed a lot since then. I've been into Red's a couple of times, but I didn't stay very long. So I would like to do that, and, but still, I'm puzzled about the double message I'm getting. We want to be a restaurant. No, we want to be a takeout. Which one is it?
I think it's both.
If you've ever been in a coffee house, you see it's kind of both. If you want to sit there and you order something heavier than a croissant, or say, and you get an espresso, or if you want a good wine or a craft beer, and you want an appetizer, that can be available to you. So it's both. It's not one or the other, because that's the way you guys have permitted it. It's always been to go. And now it has this very tough restriction on using all this plastic. I'm proposing let's split it. Go down in seating and allow me to use some glass, silverware, and plates. You have a couple of resorts over here that people want to come in. They don't want to drink out of that. Actually, I get so many complaints as to why it's allowed, that plastic is actually forced on people when they don't want it. You're getting people that come in with their own water bottles now. We want to be able to offer that service. And that's a trend that's not going to go away.
So can you help us with some of this thinking?
Well, there's a couple of comments that I wanted to make for you all on some options. Talking with you today, you talked about water usage. I think it's inappropriate to use the existing water use because it is paper service right now, and it's not going to be.
Well, this isn't paper.
No,
Well,
it's
No,
plastic.
it's not
Throw
washable.
away.
It's not washable.
It's disposable. It's disposable.
Part of it is
Is there a definition
going
of
to be
paper
glass. Part of it's
legal?
not. And the main income producing is the to-go.
So, Title V allows for water meter uses instead of the defined gallons per day. If you have to ask the department, which is the state, it's not something the local health does. It doesn't require a variance, but you have to go to apply to them to use a different flow than what is offered. And in order to do that, you need to get water meter usage from similar businesses. So you would have to find a business that's similar to yours.
Well, that building, there's 1 meter for a 3,100 square foot restaurant and 2 units, 2 living units. And it's only using 464 gallons a day per your water department
Are
for
the
the last quarter.
Are the apartments metered separately?
Nope.
So what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't consider your new business to be a similar business to what your existing meter readings are. I would imagine the state, the department would also require a similar business, something that's coffee house, pub, real glassware.
Well, but a coffee house does not necessarily serve in glassware. Even Three Fins, which is very environmentally.
Which is also confusing because you just said you were gonna do takeout, so I'm
Well,
confused.
because we're going to do biodegradable paper cups. We don't want to do plastic lids. We want to get away from that. We want to do wooden stirrers. We don't want to do styrofoam like Dunkin's Donuts do.
But the water flow to serve in that and the water flow to serve in a paper cup is the same,
But it's to go. The
right?
only difference here is we would wash that.
So it would be, that's just,
And that's only
my
in the
opinion
pub.
is, it's a different use. So I would want to, I think the department would want to see a similar business plan
Yeah, I agree with that.
to be considered.
Okay.
In order to not get a variance from the flow, you'd need to stay at 21 seats. If you want to go above your 21 seats, it's clearly a variance from Title V.
And I don't have the standing to apply for a variance.
So if you've talked about a lot of flex seating, and you're getting close to 21 from what you've given me is 24. And when you say you're forced to use plastic, if you want 21 seats, you don't have to use plastic. No one's forcing them to use plastic. They chose more seats in order to.
I think the restriction's very clear. You're forced.
They wanted more seats. In order to get more seats, they took the paper restriction. If they wanted glass, they would have had less seats.
Yeah.
So, going forward, if you were to look at a plan and consider variations to seating plans, I think it's important to get a seating plan and not a concept.
Exactly, I couldn't make any sense out of these charts at all. as
And
to
it
who
is-
sits where.
I think it is reasonable to consider reusing this system with a plan to either expand the septic system or reduce the number of seats or get this water usage determination from the state.
We have found the state pretty uncooperative, and a business plan to be viable, I don't know what your practice is like, but if you only have a certain amount of patients, you don't make enough money to stay open. So, but business viability has to be on the table here. That's why he's selling. And so, I believe you should come in and take a look at it. I hear your concerns. I think that it's very rigid. We are working with an engineer, and we are trying to upgrade on new machinery, like the espresso machine, low flow technology. There is different equipment that he's going to have in there. And again, we just want to upgrade, the operation of a business to what we think would really work in this really important location with that deck.
If you look at the original application for Reds back in 2022, was it? 2012.
2015.
That variance, I guess it was the previous,
2002 is the
Yeah,
septic
2002
variance.
is the variance. And that
that
was before
variance.
sewer was coming in.
if you look at it, the variance was very, very generous. They
I
said
don't-
10 feet required, 2 feet allowed, for example. 8 feet required, 1 foot allowed. So you're not going to be able to expand your current system no matter what. The only thing you could do is, I presume you're talking to the church about leasing lands or.
I'm not, I
expansion.
can't do that because.
Well, I mean,
under this-
whoever's talking to
The
them.
landlord. The landlord's probably not going to expand the septic system.
Okay, so you're stuck with that septic system unless you come up with a better idea. The rules are strict, but because, like yourself, people always try to get around them. They're always trying.
Sir, I'm not trying to get around
I
that.
know,
I'm
I
coming
know,
to you in
but
good faith.
I'm not saying you
And I
are.
am
I'm
setting
just
setting out
saying
a
in
business
general,
plan.
The rules are strict for a reason.
And, okay,
So let's not get into side issues. Now, the main issue is, that's not paper. Therefore,
no, that is not
I
paper.
don't know what you're showing me that for, because it shouldn't be here.
Why should, it's
Either
what's
it's
being,
plastic, or it's a paper, or it's glass.
no, that's what they're serving in now.
Well, then they're, as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's disposable.
It's
Paper
disposable.
service
That's
is
what
a
they're saying.
Well, then
You
they
don't
should
have to-
say disposable
disposable.
instead of paper,
Yeah.
because it said paper in the paper.
Well, it's disposable, as are the
All right,
plastic
let's say,
utensils.
for example, that you decide to give in to the restriction of disposable. You could use paper. There's nothing against
In a
it.
glass of wine, would you want that?
Yes, absolutely. I don't care
I
what
think
you put
that
the wine.
that's-
In fact, if I go to a picnic, I usually drink wine out of a paper cup.
That might be a personal preference. From a business standpoint of a man who's from the wine country of California, and no vintners, there's a taste factor.
Well,
That
I've been to,
discourages.
I've lived in California, and I disagree. But that's a different issue.
So I see that
If
you
you
have a
wanted
prejudice
to-
there.
If you wanted to have an unlimited or less limited system, paper cups with plastic coating could do the job, and then you wouldn't have to be here
With plastic coating?
with a
No.
coating so that it's
I feel like I'm being told how to operate a business. I know very well how to operate. So I'm just asking you. that
Okay,
there's-
then
mean, if
I know
have to
very
do-
well how to provide.
May I?
And I can do wash plastic wine glasses, but, you know,
I know how to
If you're gonna turn us down
provide
to a
rules and
stand-
regulations. That's my job.
Can I interject? Just as a member of the Board of Selectmen, and Board of Health is completely independent from the Board of Selectmen. We have no, we can't even.
I understand the
influence this.
divisions.
In saying that, we've talked, we certainly have an interest in revitalizing Harwich Center. On the other hand, the Board of Health has strict regulations they have to stick with. Seems to me we're going back and forth on this. Megan and the board have offered some options to give additional data on the water flow. You've mentioned, low flow equipment. Get some data on that to prove your case, because this discussion right now is going around in circles.
Well, I
I
agree.
suggest you come back, and our only, I know a couple of us on the board, our only suggestion is are there options out there that might help you out within the regulations? And that's what has been offered.
And I get that.
would suggest that.
But I want
you know,
to,
you
I'd
come
like
back.
to be clear, okay, I'm fully willing to do that, or Mike can. I'm, also want to make sure that there's when you're doing a comparable business, am I comping to Perks in Harwich Port? Or am I comping in Harwich Center?
Doesn't have to be in Harwich.
Oh, well, see, I'd really want you to then delineate what my parameters are. Like in real estate, that you can only do comps within a certain area to show like kind and like value.
It's not a
And-
value issue, it's a water use issue.
But it should be under the Harwich, under this Board of Health jurisdiction, correct?
Is there any way that we could
No,
actually?
anywhere
look
in
at
the
this
state.
Anywhere in the state? Okay.
From another angle? If you were to look at the water flow that the business is using today, monitor the water flow, and the Board of Health could be have jurisdiction over the water flow and say, clearly there's no more water flow than there was, and if there is, then we would just have to say, okay, you gotta go back to the plastic and paper and so forth and so on.
Or
My
windows.
partners, I'm Greg Winston, I'm sorry, and I own the Winston Inn. And these are my partners, my son's business partners, and I have been on the Historic District Commission of this town for 32 years. I'm sad that this little village is falling apart. My buddies want to do something here that wants to make this place a little better than it is. Whether or not any of you have been into Reds, I will tell you, it's nothing much. It's certainly nothing that Harwich wants to claim as their own. You come to the end of 124 and you look in at neon lights that aren't even allowed in a historic district, but we have no policing over that sort of thing, and so therefore, they're there, okay? Now we have a gas station here. You just gave a vape license to what was the post office over here. There's an awful lot of things here that are absolutely driving me crazy, and I'm not gonna lose my temper. I'm simply going to say, would you please give these gentlemen a chance? Let them show you that they can reduce the flow, that they will not excess the flow, that they will, the water department will watch what goes in their meter every day. They are not here to take advantage of this community. All they want to do is to make this place a prettier place than it is today.
You're not gonna lose your temper, huh?
So is there a way that they could move forward with any of this, that, let's say they monitor the flow, and if it does,
It's still a variance from Title V.
Yeah.
It's, they have to request a variance from Title V.
I can't do that, because I'm not the owner.
Now, can you
Have
be a
standards.
little more specific on this water supply issue? You said they could monitor the water supply as opposed to the water effluent, right?
Not exactly. The code allows for, instead of using the gallons per day designed, outlined in the code for restaurant use,
Yeah.
for non-residential water uses with unique design features, which I'm not sure this would qualify, but it's not my call, it's up to the state. They are allowed, instead of using that 1,000 gallons a day minimum for a restaurant, they can look at similar businesses and compare water usage. And then, once they determine that that water usage is correct, more accurate than what Title V allows, then they base the design flow on 200% of that actual water meter readings. So I don't know if that will be beneficial or not, but it
was
may.
Today it was 464 gallons a minute, or gallons a day from your water department, is what they
So,
verified.
So that
And the
is a
engineer
route.
suggested that we try and go through that flow. And he also mentioned the filter. So we have looked at every aspect of this septic system in how to fit in it. Not in a way to beat the rules, but in a way to comply and make a better business and a better place there that protects Harwich Center and helps do something. So I do sort of resent that I'm being talked about like I'm trying to evade somehow. I'm not. I'm trying to comply in such a way that a business could grow and be what I want it to do.
I don't know if you can approve or if you want to approve a license without that data up front.
Okay.
can you get that data?
You mean like a like-kind business, or I need to know specifically what data you want?
You need to talk to the Department of Environmental Protection. It's their code, it's their rule. So
Okay,
need to
can you
contact
send us a
them.
letter or something that you're not gonna go forward until this criteria is met?
Well, that isn't what they voted on. I
We
can
haven't
give,
voted at all.
right.
Right.
But if that's the route you want to take, then
Well, it's not the
That-
route I'm proposing, you guys are proposing the route, so I just need to know
we're
the
offering an option.
specifics.
We're
So
offering an
then-
option.
okay.
So the other option would be start at 21 seats and then come back and change.
That, I had thought of that. Is that a possibility?
Yes.
In other words, start with the 21 seats, monitor the water,
Well, 21 seats, we don't have to monitor anything, correct?
well, no. What I'm saying is, if you want to go further, if you want to add, so in other words, if you've got the 21 seats, and now you monitor the flow,
Frankly, I think what I would, ideally for me, I would like 28, 29 seats. I don't want to go over that because it just
There's
doesn't.
no room.
There's no room. That's not with what we want to do.
so that there's only a difference then of
7 seats.
7
basically.
seats. So what I'm saying, so can you start with the 21? Let's stay within the regulations that
We
we
could
know
do that.
work. And start with the 21. Let's see what the water usage, I don't know what other word to use, is. Now if you fall below what is allowed, then add, does that,
Then come back to you and
and then
ask for
come
a
back?
variance.
Yes.
Well, that's why I proposed the 18-month monitoring period, according to our engineer, was because what we've noticed with REDS was a decrease since 2015 in water usage, up until this last quarter. Now, I don't know why that is, whether it's decreasing business or, I don't know why the apartments aren't.
So the
holding up
reason
their
why
end.
I would caution against that is seasonal use, your water use is going to be lower at this time of year anyway. And if you're proposing a great business and you're gonna get more and more popular with 21 seats, your water usage is going to go up. So if you say, okay, you're at 21 seats and you're within your water usage and you go up, your
But this
usage will be
was-
No,
higher,
what I-
and
what I-
Title V doesn't allow for that.
What I was getting at is that they start with the 21, and you're saying 18 months. That's going to take you through the summer.
Right.
So you would know what the usages are going to be throughout a 12-month.
The number that I
span.
quoted you was from last summer.
Right, but we don't know. I would suspect that you would do a better business, which
But
possibly would.
you can't hold that against me.
No, no, I'm not. But I'm just
I'm being
saying,
punished
so
here.
let's see what the, was it 21
21 seats.
21 seats is. But will you be if over the summer, those water usages go, and then, let me ask you something. So is the water usage,
It's the flow.
like yearly? In other words, like, okay, it's higher in the summer, but
Yes.
lower in the winter?
Yeah,
So,
it's flexible
it-
every
all right.
quarter.
It's read monthly. You get a monthly water meter reading.
and then.
Yes.
and then-
Actually, she told me it was quarterly.
I think they can
There's
break
one
it down.
There's one meter in that building,
That's something you should also do, is separate the meters.
but that's not, I don't own the
That's
building.
not us.
He won't.
Or then you'll be
Maybe
taking
we should be
220 off the
talking to
top.
the landlord.
Well, the
instead of you
landlord's not
guys.
applying to you for a health permit for your use as a restaurant.
Well, it's his money.
You could
too.
ask him. It doesn't hurt to ask him.
I have asked.
Oh, all right,
And
okay.
he doesn't, you don't want him in here right now.
No, I mean, as
So,
far as.
I like the idea of the 21 seats and going, and some monitoring and things like that.
And then you would be, if in fact, let's say your business,
Especially since I'm trying only for 7 more seats. But, you know, some
Right.
of the stuff is standing up. There's a standing up board, or to stand and have a drink, or whatever you want. I just, you know, I believe that I'm gonna be tapping a market of to-go stuff in the mornings that is gonna add my business, okay? I wanna keep the bar because it's there and it can stay open late, and I do wanna make it a, you know, better place in there with better wines and stuff like that. Will they stay till 1 AM? Probably not. You know, it's just the way the times are. But I want that option. I want it to look good. I plan on putting better lighting in, you know, things like that, so that it's just, it looks vacant to me now. And
And in
I-
18 months, we'll have a better idea where the sewer plan is as well. 'Cause right
Again,
now we're-
and that I didn't even bring up, Megan. You know
Right now
I was
we're on
going
the
there.
fence, so
We're supposed to be dead before that gets to us, so who knows?
I will be.
things may change.
We cannot
So
think
I
like
guess
that.
my
We
my
have to
thought is,
think
if that water usage would turn, because your business picks up,
Well, you
If-
know, the interesting though is, like, I looked at I went to the water department today, and I looked at his history, and it wasn't really that much difference, because the engineer suggested that. He goes, I don't think you're using your whole septic tank. And it turned out we really weren't. And that was from the prime of Reds when he first opened, and he did have a good crowd. And it's, you know, he still does fairly good, but, you know, it's not what it once was, but I blame the food quality.
well, but yours might do better.
And it might not.
We have to assume that it's going to.
What's that?
We have to assume it's going to.
I would think it would, just listening to it, but I guess what I'm getting at is, are you going to be satisfied with the 21 seats if in fact that water usage,
Exceeds the 1,000.
yes.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I'd have to be. I believe the business is sort of worth fighting for. You know, I think I can show value there, and I still think we can comply in some form, that we're gonna be
So what,
Working hard
how do
on
we,
this.
how do we go forward with something like this?
You can approve his license conditioned upon a floor plan showing 21 seats.
And can you, and then with that, you'd have to say, you know, for 18 months, and if do you put that,
We can put that in the minutes. I don't know if you want it
I
in a
don't think I
decision.
want that
I don't
put in
know.
at all,
Yeah.
because that's me coming back to you
Right.
saying, okay, I'm doing better, and I'm monitoring
And you're not
my
gonna like that.
usage,
and we get to see the
and
usage.
here's my usage, and so therefore, will you bump me up to 24 seats for the
Right.
season?
Right.
So you don't approve of that plan?
What's that?
the plan that we just talked about? You don't approve it?
No, that's, he does.
That's what he does, we
Yeah.
both approve it.
No,
We're
you said you
asking
don't
for-
want to have to come back here.
No, he doesn't want it in the
No, I don't
condition.
want,
didn't want
I
it
don't
in
want
writing.
you to set the parameter. I want to come back to you and say, please give me more seats.
I was saying, should some of that be in writing?
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
didn't,
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
it
instead
doesn't
of it
have to
being in
be.
writing, it makes more sense
Yeah.
for me to come back or us
Yeah.
to come back to you.
Just know that you wouldn't want to come back in
If we
three
were
months.
over 1,000?
Right, or in 3 months, you want to give it a
I'm
full.
gonna buy the land next door.
Or
Or
by
have
the
that
church
option,
and then determine what's going on with that.
Well, that could, if they decide they want
To sell
to
that
sell that
lot back.
portion, or lease option it, or some form of it,
then that,
that's an
then,
option.
That would solve the problem.
And I just want you to understand that we're aware of this, that we have consulted with an engineer, we have consulted with the church, and we've, talked to selectmen, we're talking to you guys, and all in a good faith effort to figure this out in a way that we can be here on Main Street.
I'd like to see the town spruce up a little bit. I'm a stickler for the regulations.
Well, I think everybody has to be.
And that's the way I feel. I mean, we've got the regulations for a reason. We've got an issue with water. We've only got so much. We don't have a lot of places to put it.
But we don't want to do that either.
And I agree with that too. I agree with that too. I think we really need to start looking at waste, but that's, again, a separate issue. But it's not that we're not trying to stop it. We're just trying to, let's come up with a plan that's going to work for you and fits into our regulations. And is there any, what
If
we
you can
just,
do that, we'll work together.
so how do we,
My recommended motion would be to approve the permit application with the condition that they have no more than 21 seats and provide us with a floor plan at your next meeting to approve.
And you're not going to mention anything about monitoring the water?
Nope, if they're at 21 seats, they don't have to monitor their water. If they want to come back in a year and say, okay, I'm ready for 25 seats, here's my water usage, then that's their prerogative to come to us for
And
that.
you'll accept the water usage as a,
I can't promise that. I need to look into that because I don't know if that's an option. I don't know that off the top of my head without researching.
Okay. I so move.
okay?
It
Vote.
needs to be a unanimous vote, so you'd have to vote.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
All right?
Aye?
well, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
very
And we have some
much.
work
You've
to
done
do.
some Wonderful things at Center Harwich.
We'll
I
see what
think
we
it
can
sounds
do.
it does sound very nice, and,
I hope so. I hope you come in and I'll give you the tour.
I
I-
will come in.
We bring our own glasses.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be on vacation for a month, but when I get back, I will be over.
Is there any way we can change the wording of that law? The paper.
We can't change things on existing things, but moving forward, we can.
This is Larry Valentine, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Meeting is still in session. Closed.
We're still in
Meeting is-
session, if you
Yeah.
could take your conversations out.
Yeah, go ahead.
We can't change that for existing conditions, but for future conditions, we can change
Is
the
that our
wording.
regulation?
It's not, it's just the wording of your conditions.
Who worded it?
The previous board,
Oh, so we could vote on it.
if they wanted to come, if an applicant wanted to change it, they could come for reconsideration, which
No, no, I'm
I
just
think they
talking
may
about-
have to
No,
do.
he wants to change the
I'm-
wording
I'm
from
making a
paper to
complaint that
disposable.
This is not really
On what?
paper. This is plastic.
Where would you
It's
like to
Paper
change?
with a plastic coating.
Where would you like to change that wording?
Wherever the word paper is used.
In what?
I don't know where that comes
In
from.
life? I mean, we can't,
No,
we
no, no,
can't
I'm
do
talking
that.
about, this was all about, it's in your agreement with them, right? That they have to
Yes.
use paper dishes.
Disposable.
Isn't that-
Okay.
That's, yeah, I think
Okay.
in this particular issue where they're
Yes.
saying paper,
Okay.
because some of it is plastic, so
Oh,
instead
so
of,
it's not
Yes.
required that you use paper. You have to,
You can use anything
anything.
Yeah.
you want.
disposable.
So we
In
would
other
just-
words, we,
Pat, I think paper is a jargon meaning disposable. So
well, it's
a
not.
common phrase.
I disagree.
Well,
Paper is
going
paper.
forward, we will be more cognizant
and
of
we can
the
use
wording.
disposable.
disposable.
So,
So the
Alright.
last thing you need to vote on are the permits.
the permits.
And you have quite a few permits to vote on because it's renewal time.
Is there
You guys
any,
have been busy.
anything here that, so now what do we, with this one, since it's here, so what do we, how do we vote on these?
Approved as, just approved as voted for new business. We'll include that.
Or we could say
Condition.
approved for existing?
They need to, approved for 21 seats.
No, like, if we're going to approve all of these,
Oh, approved as
Approved.
written,
but not this one,
with the exception of.
with the exception of, all right.
The thing is,
All right.
the chart doesn't even mention whether it's approved or not.
Well, you're approving it tonight.
That's what we,
I'm sorry to be such a pest.
no,
But the
That's-
minutes don't say, these have been approved.
They had, though, you're not looking at the minutes, you're looking at,
Meeting, I'm at the agenda, I'm sorry. The agenda doesn't say whether they've been approved or not.
no, that's what we're approving.
so look
Well,
under
how can we
page
approve
one.
them if nobody's approved them in advance? We've not seen these things before.
They're not in, it's not in the minutes,
These
it's
are
in
all-
the agenda.
I understand that. I
I'm
understand that, but,
renewals.
They're renewals.
They're renewals.
yeah, but do you folks affirm that every one of these places has met the conditions?
Yes,
It doesn't say that. That's my only point, and I think it should say that.
Oh, all right,
well, all of these permit applications are complete without
Okay,
any,
I think if the
Outstanding
minutes
issues.
show that they
Okay.
were all approved, that's all I want to
okay,
make
all
sure.
right, I wasn't following you on that one,
Because I
okay.
was looking at all these and I said, so why are they listed? You know, they're listed because they were approved, right?
So I guess maybe the next time that
they're
we say
listed because
something.
they're in limbo waiting for your approval.
Yeah, but
But
they
they
were
met your,
approved
but
by
they
you
met,
guys.
they met the
And that's-
guidelines, or,
Well, I don't know what the term is when you say it's okay, but I thought it was approval.
They've been vetted through the office.
That is for the office, okay.
all right, so,
I have one question.
Sure.
I want to go.
Uh-huh.
Is this divided almost by neighbor, Cape Cup? What do they sell?
She's a residential kitchen and she makes baked goods that she brings to a farmer's market to sell.
Okay.
So she's a residential kitchen
I
and
need to know her better. She makes good stuff.
she does, yes. Yep, she
I
doesn't
didn't
sell
know
out of her
she was
house.
doing this. Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't sell out of her house. She just, she bakes there and brings it to farmers markets and craft fairs and things
Okay.
like that.
got this one.
When I come to these meetings, I get to learn something.
Those are Title V inspectors. They pass
Say
their
again?
exams.
I hope-
Okay, so they're not renewed, so we're just saying every,
Yeah,
all of these
well, you
were
got
approved.
into a hornet's nest today, but not much of a
Approvable.
one anyway.
And the seal pub was already taken care of. We'll clean it up in the
All right.
minutes, yeah.
All right,
Now, do you think I was too, are we adjourned, by the way?
Not yet.
I need a vote on the permit list, please.
okay,
On the
on
what?
on the permits.
Oh, yeah.
Do we,
I move that the permits as recommended by the
the director?
health agent be approved.
Approved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Am I
Aye.
being too cranky about
No.
this?
Are we, should we make a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn, 8:10.
All right.
Now can I ask,
Are we still,
am
wait,
I being too picky, and I don't want to be picky.
no. No, I don't think you were being picky, and I think